Loss is a powerful force. It leaves a void that time struggles to fill. When someone disappears from our lives, whether by choice, distance, or fate, those left behind carry the weight of their absence. Today, I want to talk about the silent struggle of someone who faces each day with growing difficulty after losing the one they love. Regret is a heavy burden, one that grows with time and lingers in the silence of unspoken words. When someone disappears from our lives, whether by choice, circumstance, or fate, we are left with an echo of everything we never said. These words, once seemingly insignificant, become the loudest thoughts in our minds. They replay over and over, reminding us of moments when we should have spoken but chose to stay silent. The realization that we can no longer express what we feel to that person becomes a weight that we carry every single day. There is something uniquely painful about knowing that an opportunity to express love, gratitude, or even an apology is gone forever. When we are with someone every day, we take for granted the fact that there will always be another chance to say, "I love you," or "I appreciate you." We assume that time is endless, that there will always be another conversation, another shared moment, another embrace. But when a person leaves, suddenly, all the words we left unspoken become impossible to say, and we are left with nothing but the haunting realization that we waited too long. Sometimes we hold back from speaking our hearts out of fear. We are afraid of vulnerability, afraid of rejection, afraid that our words will not be received in the way we intend. We tell ourselves that we will say it tomorrow, that we will find a better moment, that emotions are better left unspoken. But tomorrow does not always come, and when it doesn't, we are left with a silence that is far louder than any words we could have spoken. The things we were too afraid to say become the very things we wish we had said the most. Regret does not just stem from love left unexpressed, but also from apologies never given. Sometimes in the heat of the moment, we let our pride take over. We assume that there will be time to make things right, time to mend broken bonds. But life is unpredictable and people leave in ways we do not expect. When they are gone, we are left with the crushing realization that we never got the chance to say, "I'm sorry," or "I didn't mean to hurt you." The weight of those words left unsaid is a burden that follows us like a shadow. There is also pain in knowing that the other person may have left with their own unspoken words. Maybe they too wanted to say something but never did. Maybe they longed to hear something from us that we never had the courage to say. We wonder if they knew how much we loved them, how much they mattered, how much their presence in our lives shaped us. Did they know the depth of our emotions? Did they leave thinking they were forgotten or unimportant? The uncertainty is a wound that never quite heals. Beyond love and apologies, there are also the simple, everyday words that we missed the most. The small conversations, the laughter, the casual "take care" or "drive safe." These words seem ordinary when spoken, but when they are gone, we realize they were the foundation of our connection. We long to hear their voice again, to say just one more thing, even if it's something as simple as "How was your day?" But life does not grant us the luxury of rewinding time. What makes unspoken words so painful is that they do not fade with time. In fact, they grow heavier. We replay past conversations in our minds, thinking about what we could have said differently, what we should have expressed. Regret is not just about the past, it follows us into the future. We carry it into new relationships, into new experiences, always reminding us of what we failed to say before. It shapes the way we communicate with others, sometimes making us hesitant to speak for fear of making the same mistakes, or pushing us to overcompensate by saying too much too soon. But there is a lesson in the weight of unspoken words. It teaches us that silence is not always golden, that vulnerability is not weakness, and that expressing our emotions is not something to be feared. If we are lucky enough to still have people in our lives whom we love, whom we appreciate, whom we need to make amends with, then we must speak. We must say the words now, before they become part of the list of things we regret. Loss is a cruel teacher, but it is also a powerful one. It reminds us that time is fleeting and that no conversation should be taken for granted. If there is something left unsaid in your heart, say it. If there is someone you love, tell them. If there is someone you need to apologize to, do it today. Because when someone disappears, it is not just their absence that hurts. It is the weight of everything we never said that makes every day harder to bear. Loneliness is not always about being alone. It is about feeling the absence of someone who was once an essential part of your life. When someone disappears, the world does not stop moving, but for the one left behind, everything feels different. The emptiness is not just in the big moments, but in the small, everyday details that used to feel ordinary. It is in the spaces they once filled, the routines they were a part of, and the moments that now feel incomplete. The hardest part about loss is not just missing the person, it is learning to live through the silence they leave behind. Every morning begins with a reminder of their absence, the empty side of the bed, the lack of their voice in the morning, the missing greeting that once felt so natural. Waking up is no longer just about starting a new day, it is about facing another 24 hours without them. The house feels quieter, not just in sound but in spirit. The small sounds they used to make, footsteps, laughter, the way they called your name, are gone, leaving behind a stillness that feels overwhelming. Routine tasks become emotional triggers. Making coffee in the morning, cooking a meal, or even watching a TV show feels different because they are no longer there to share those moments. The things that were once so ordinary now feel foreign. A chair at the table remains empty. A toothbrush sits untouched. Their favorite mug remains on the shelf. A reminder of the countless times they used it. There is a strange feeling of guilt in keeping things the same, yet an even deeper sadness in changing them. Moving things around feels like erasing their presence, but leaving them as they were feels like living in a ghost of the past. Loneliness is not just about what is missing, it is about how much their presence used to mean. There are moments when the phone rings, and for a split second there is hope that it might be them, only to be met with disappointment. Their name still lingers in conversations, spoken by others or thought of silently. The world does not forget them as quickly as one might think. Instead, they exist in fragments, in memories that surface unexpectedly. A familiar scent in the air, a song on the radio, a phrase they often used. These small reminders become moments of both comfort and sorrow. Going outside does not help as much as one would think. Walking through the places they once loved, passing by familiar spots and seeing others laugh and love makes the loneliness even sharper. It is not that the world has changed, but that one's own reality has. The places that were once filled with shared laughter now feel hollow. A walk in the park, a visit to a favorite cafe, or even driving down certain streets, all of these hold memories that now feel out of reach. Even in a crowded room, loneliness remains. Being surrounded by people does not erase the absence of the one person who truly mattered. Nights are the hardest. The silence is heavier in the dark. The absence is louder. There is no one to say goodnight to, no one to share the last thoughts of the day with. The moments that were once filled with whispered conversations, shared laughter, or even comfortable silence now feel unbearably empty. Sleep does not come easily, not because of exhaustion, but because the mind refuses to let go. Memories play on repeat, making the darkness feel even longer. The loneliness at night is not just about missing them. It is about realizing that tomorrow will be just as empty as today. The loneliness does not lessen with time, it only changes. At first it is overwhelming, like an unbearable weight pressing down, but as days pass, it transforms into something quieter, more subtle. It becomes a constant presence, lingering in the background, making itself known in unexpected moments. It is in the reflex of reaching out for their hand only to remember they are no longer there. It is in the habit of turning to tell them something only to realize that no one is listening. It is in the understanding that no matter how much time passes, there will always be a part of the heart that aches for them. Despite the pain, loneliness also serves as a reminder. It is proof that they mattered, that their presence was significant. It means that love was real, that the moments shared were meaningful. Though it hurts, it is also a testament to the depth of connection that once existed. The loneliness will never truly disappear, but with time, it may become a softer ache rather than a sharp wound. It will transform into a quiet longing, a gentle memory, a love that remains even in absence. The battle between moving on and holding on is one of the most complex emotional struggles a person can face. It is a tug of war between the heart and the mind, between the past and the future, and between pain and hope. When someone we love disappears from our lives, whether due to a breakup, death, or any form of separation, the path forward is never clear. Each step taken toward healing feels like a fight between the desire to let go and the fear of losing them completely. This internal conflict can consume us as we constantly question whether holding on to the past is keeping us from a better future, or if letting go means betraying the love and memories we once shared. At first, the emotional toll of holding on is overwhelming. We find ourselves clinging to memories as though they are the only things keeping us tethered to the person we've lost. These memories become both our comfort and our prison. Every moment spent together feels precious in hindsight. We replay conversations, look through old photographs, and remember the way things used to be. There's a part of us that believes that by holding on to these memories, we can somehow keep them alive, preserve their essence, and hold on to the connection that once existed. We are afraid that letting go means forgetting, and forgetting feels like losing them all over again. But as time passes, the battle becomes more complex. There is a subtle pressure to move on. Society often expects us to get over it, to move forward and embrace the future. People tell us that time heals all wounds, and we are encouraged to meet new people, pursue new experiences, and leave the past behind. Yet for someone who is grieving or struggling to let go, these well-meaning words can feel dismissive and hurtful. The world doesn't understand that moving on is not a matter of simply deciding to get over it. It is a process, a slow and often painful journey of rebuilding a life without the person who once played an essential role in it. The emotional weight of holding on feels like a comfort in the chaos, even if it prevents healing. Every day becomes a battle between the pull of the past and the push of the future. There are moments when we feel ready to move on, when the thought of a new beginning doesn't feel so scary. But just as we begin to move forward, a wave of doubt and grief crashes over us, reminding us of the love we once had and the life we once shared. Our minds tell us that it's time to let go, that it's unhealthy to remain stuck in the past, but our hearts refuse to release the bond that feels too strong to break. We begin to question ourselves. Should we be moving on, or should we be holding on just a little longer, waiting for something to change? There is also the fear of what it means to move on. For many, moving on feels like betraying the memory of the person they loved. It feels like erasing a chapter of their life, like closing a door that can never be reopened. There is a sense of guilt that comes with the idea of letting go. How can we move on when they are no longer here to share in the journey? Can we ever truly move on, or will we always carry the pieces of the past with us? These fears make it harder to embrace the future, because we feel as though doing so means we are leaving behind something that was once so important to us. On the other hand, there are moments when we realize that holding on to the past is not making us stronger, it is keeping us stuck in a cycle of pain. The past is a beautiful memory, but it is just that, the past. No matter how much we hold on, we cannot bring it back. We cannot undo the separation. We cannot revive the person who is gone. And in continuing to hold on, we risk missing out on the life that is waiting for us. The longer we stay fixated on what we've lost, the harder it becomes to recognize the opportunities and possibilities that exist in the present. We may begin to lose sight of our own growth, of the person we can become, and the life we are still capable of living. The key to moving on is not forgetting the past or erasing the memory of the person we loved. Moving on is about finding a way to integrate that love into our present and future. It is about honoring the connection we had while also accepting that life goes on, and so must we. It's about acknowledging the pain and loss without letting it define us. But this is not something that happens overnight. Moving on requires patience, self-compassion, and a willingness to face the unknown. It's not about erasing the person from our hearts, but about making space for new experiences, new people, and new joy. At the same time, letting go doesn't mean that the love we had is any less real or important. It simply means that we are learning to live with the absence, finding ways to cherish the memories without allowing them to hold us back. The act of holding on to the past might feel comforting in the short term, but in the long run, it can prevent us from fully embracing the possibilities of the future. It is in the balance between moving on and holding on that we find our peace. We learn to carry the love we've lost while allowing ourselves to create new paths, to grow, and to heal. The battle between moving on and holding on will never be fully resolved. It's a continuous process, one that ebbs and flows with time. Some days we will feel ready to move forward. Other days we will long for the past. What matters is the acceptance that both moving on and holding on are part of the healing process. And in time, we will come to understand that the two can coexist, not as opposing forces, but as parts of a journey that ultimately leads us to peace. There is a strength that resides in silence, a quiet resilience that doesn't seek recognition or applause. It is the kind of strength that is not measured by physical prowess or loud declarations, but by the way a person endures the weight of their struggles without revealing the full extent of their pain. This silent strength is often invisible to the world, unnoticed by those around him, yet it is undeniably powerful. It is the inner fortitude that keeps him going when everything around him seems to crumble. The quiet resolve that enables him to face each day, even when the emotional burden feels unbearable. In the midst of his struggle, there is an understanding that not all battles are fought in the open. Some are fought in the quiet spaces of his mind, in the dark corners of his heart, where no one else can see. His pain, his fears, his doubts, they are his alone to carry, yet he shoulders them with a grace that is often mistaken for stoicism. He does not want sympathy, nor does he expect others to understand. Instead, he continues to move forward, even when the weight of his emotions threatens to pull him under. There is a silent resolve that pushes him to rise each morning and face the world, regardless of how exhausting or overwhelming it might be. The struggle he faces is not always visible. It is not the kind of hardship that leaves scars on the skin or bruises to be seen by others. It is the invisible struggle, the emotional, mental, and psychological battles that are hidden beneath the surface. These battles are not easily understood by those around him, who may mistake his silence for indifference or his calm demeanor for a lack of emotion. But in reality, his silence is not a lack of feeling, it is a manifestation of his inner strength. He is not silent because he does not care, but because he understands that sometimes words can never fully capture the depth of what he is going through. His silence becomes a shield, protecting him from the vulnerability of expressing his pain, but also allowing him to reflect and process his emotions without burdening others. In the face of adversity, his actions speak louder than his words. He does not seek validation or approval from the outside world, and he certainly does not need anyone's pity. His strength lies in his ability to keep moving forward, even when every part of him is screaming to stop. He faces each day with a quiet determination, performing the tasks before him with diligence and care, even when it feels as though the weight of his struggle is too much to bear. It is in these moments that his true strength shines through, when no one is watching, when there is no applause or recognition, and yet he continues to give his best simply because it is what he knows how to do. This silent strength is often a product of years of facing hardship without seeking help. He has learned to rely on himself, to navigate life's challenges without burdening others with his struggles. Over time, this self-reliance becomes a source of pride, even though it is rooted in a quiet sense of loneliness. He may have learned early on that not everyone is equipped to bear his burdens, so he keeps them to himself. This internalized strength has served him well, but it also means that his pain goes unrecognized by those around him. In his mind, asking for help would be a sign of weakness, so he chooses to bear the weight alone. But there is an exhaustion that comes with this silent strength. While others may see him as invincible or emotionally detached, the truth is that he is simply exhausted from carrying everything on his own. His silence is not an absence of emotion, but a survival mechanism. He has learned that expressing his vulnerability often leads to misunderstanding or dismissal, so he chooses to endure in silence. But the longer he carries this burden without sharing it with others, the heavier it becomes. He may find moments of respite in his solitude, but there are also moments when the isolation feels suffocating, when the weight of his struggles becomes too much to bear alone. Yet even in the face of overwhelming exhaustion, his strength remains. It is a quiet strength, one that does not ask for recognition but continues to give and endure. It is in the way he shows up each day, in the way he keeps his promises, in the way he continues to care for others despite the emotional toll it takes on him. His ability to push through his own struggles to be there for those he loves is a testament to the depth of his character. He may not speak of his pain, but his actions reveal the quiet sacrifice he makes in order to support those around him. The silent strength behind his struggle is also a reflection of his deep sense of responsibility. He may feel that he is the anchor for others, the one who must remain steady even when everything else feels uncertain. This sense of duty keeps him going, even when the weight of the world feels like it is too much to bear. He may not express his vulnerability because he does not want to burden others, but the truth is that his silence is often a mask for a heart that is deeply compassionate and caring. He carries his own pain because he does not want to add to the burden of others, and he does so with a level of dignity and grace that few ever truly appreciate. In the end, his silent strength is not a weakness, but a powerful form of resilience. It is the quiet courage to keep moving forward, even when it seems impossible. It is the ability to face the toughest of struggles with grace and dignity, even when no one is watching. And though he may never receive the recognition or validation he deserves, his strength is undeniable. He carries his burdens with a quiet pride, knowing that his strength is not measured by how loudly he speaks, but by how deeply he endures.